just a few little reminders about practicing meditation that I think might help some people who are new, or even those of us who haven't been practicing so routinely. So just a few reminders to think about when you're practicing meditation is to really allow yourself to be exactly as you are in this moment. And I know I'm just grabbing a little piece of paper that I had up here on the computer. I know that sounds kind of silly, because who else would we be in the moment, or where else would we be in the moment? But I think what happens often is we have this sort of grandiose idea about what meditation is. And when we have this sort of sense that it's this really big deal and we sit down to practice meditation, it can be very disconcerting to realize that it's a very humanizing process, learning that our minds don't stop, and maybe every part of our body starts to ache. Things start to itch in places that we didn't even know could potentially itch. Our eyes all of a sudden need some sort of attention. Our glasses, if we wear glasses, they're suddenly slipping down our face. And, we need all manner of adjustment. And is everything right with the seat I'm in? So what happens is, we are not, as a culture in this country, used to sitting still. We are a go, 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 go society. I call it the Burger King mentality. I call it the McDonald's mentality. It's the have it your way and I want it now. I don't want to wait for that burger to cook. I want it to be out to me in 2 minutes or less. And if it's not, your expectation is dashed, and it's ruined for you. So we live in a culture that's very much like that, where we want things to be right away. We want it to be now. And I think what we've all learned in the last 2 months or so, since we've been social distancing and separating ourselves from one another and working more out of our homes, and our routine is completely changed. I think we are, as a society, whether we agree or not, many of us have had to become far more patient. It takes longer to check out. I mean, there's no two ways about it. When you check into the food store, it's a longer process. I don't know how many of you feel, but I often feel that mask is a bit restrictive, and I feel like I move slower as a result of the mask. And in many ways, it's taken me a while to get used to wearing the mask, being out in public, feeling comfortable, not being worried about, where it's positioned on my face or whatnot. And really just taking my time when I'm at the stores. I find that my shopping experience is slower. It's longer. I'm not running in and out of places. I'm probably getting more than I normally do because I'm not shopping as often. But it's not even just that. Even when I go into a store for just a few things, I find that I've slowed down, and I'm taking my time, and I'm noticing more, and I'm seeing more things than I used to. One of the things that I'm noticing, and I'm sure many of you notice this too, not just the people who are here tonight, but the people who tune into this on my YouTube channel later on, many of you probably notice the limits in the types of products that are being offered. I think, again, as a society, we have become so used to the myriad of products that are on the shelves, and that now that things are really being limited, it can be frustrating, and it can feel frustrating. I know I was just at the food store today, and it made me laugh, because in the paper products aisle, they had plenty of paper towels, they had lots of Kleenex, but for toilet paper, they had these teeny tiny packages that were, about the size it was when I was a kid, because we used to only get 4 rolls at a time. These mega rolls that we get today with like 54 rolls of toilet paper. or 68 rolls of toilet paper. I mean, these things didn't exist. Stores were much smaller. Stock was much more limited, and there wasn't the variety that there is today. So it was just really funny to see this four, one, two, three, four, just tiny roll of toilet paper. And I thought, you know what? Maybe that's why I'm doing a lot of looking back on the year of my birth on my Facebook page that I'm doing. Maybe maybe I'm noticing this sort of return to kind of this nostalgic sort of way of doing things. When I was a kid, every Sunday night, my dad would, not Sunday night, I'm sorry, I think it was on Fridays, either Fridays or Saturdays, my dad would cut up chickens. Mom would buy them whole, dad would cut them up, and they would be divided by parts, and that was just the way we did things. Nowadays it's like we walk into the food store and there's wings and there's thighs and there's, tenders and breasts and, you name it, they've got it. Everything from marinated to non-marinated. And now with some of the shortages that are coming about, there's a slowdown in terms of how they're able to process all this food. So even though the meat products will be available, they're going to be in larger cuts, and they're in many cases going to be uncut. So we may start to see a return to like the whole chicken. So anyway, why am I talking about all of this in regard to how we can approach meditation in a much more friendly way? And I like combining the two. I like looking at how we're dealing with our world around us and how we are being impacted by the world around us, and bringing mindfulness into our daily life. So when we sit down to practice in a formal sense, when we're practicing meditation, I want us to toss out the, thoughts about I'm terrible at this, I'm never going to do any good, my mind's always racing, I need to scratch myself every 10 seconds, I'm listening to every sound in my house, I feel like I just need to be on the go. Remember, that's how we've been hardwired. We have literally been hardwired to operate this way. And not just in our culture, not just in our country, but in many cultures and countries worldwide. We move at the speed of sound. Information is available at the speed of sound. So when we sit like this, it's one of those times when it's okay to notice that the mind is active, or to notice that the body is wanting attention, to notice that maybe your heart is racing a little bit, or you're feeling tension that you weren't even aware of earlier in the day until you sat down here tonight. And that's okay. So just as we are mindfully aware of the changes in our environment when we go to the food store and how things are feeling limited, and maybe we feel a little constricted by the face mask, and we're literally restricted by where we can stand and what aisles we can go up and down, and and so on and so forth. Take that in the same vein that we do our practice. Allow for yourself to feel the discomfort. Allow for it to feel a little odd. Allow for there to be some uncertainty about everything that's happening around us. And it doesn't mean we have to have all the answers, and certainly no one person does have all the answers. I think it's important for us to just do whatever we can do to mitigate the stress and the tension, and try to get better night's sleep, try to eat healthier, try to get out in the sunshine more, try to do things now that the weather, although tomorrow I think we've got some rain, but we've got some nicer weather coming for many parts of the country. So trying to do maybe a little bit more outside and getting some of that wonderful sunlight on our faces and on our heads. And don't be tough on yourself. Don't beat yourself up about meditation. Don't attach this like grandiose title to it. I am about to meditate. Oh, you know, like the heavens open up and the angels sing. Whoa, you know, just to me, that if that's a funny image and it makes you laugh, then by all means have that. But approach meditation as you would anything else. It's something to just help slow down the hamster wheel mind, bring us into more ease as opposed to dis-ease. I always love to emphasize dis-ease as opposed to disease, but that dis-ease that we get in our lives, and just allow us to be who we are. You couldn't ask for anything else from any one of us than to be who we are. There's a real authenticity that we bring when we practice meditation. And we always say we're starting over again. We always say all of us are beginners and none of us are experts. It's all about a beginner's mind, starting over again. And I feel that so much in these last few weeks, especially. I feel this sense of needing to remind myself that it's okay to start over again, that I don't have to get everything a-okay, that I am forgetting a little bit more, that my routine has changed, that the world has changed dramatically. And it's okay to feel that sense of dis-ease with everything that's going on. So tonight, what I wanted to do was a progressive muscle relaxation meditation. And it sounds like a big fancy term, but what it is it's tensing and releasing different parts of the body that I will name as we go through this, as we go through the body. And what you'll be doing is bringing your attention to that particular body part that I'll name. I'll ask that you create tension there. So if it were our hands, we would be making fists with our fingers. We'd be really, really feeling that tension in the hands. And then we'll release. So there'll be a tension and a release that we'll be doing. And we'll start at the feet and we'll work our way up to, you know what? No, I'm going to work the opposite tonight. I'm actually going to start at the crown and work our way down to the bottom of our feet tonight. I find that to be a very relaxing protocol when you're looking for something to help with falling asleep at night. I often start with the head. I find this sense of moving down the body almost as though there's like this invisible elevator that's starting at the crown and slowly moving through our body all the way down to our feet, helps bring about that sense of release and allowing things to sort of fall and lower. And literally, our awareness is lowering in the body at the same time. So come into that comfortable seated posture or lying down on the floor. Remember that you can practice this at any time you want because I will be uploading this to my YouTube channel. So you may want to try this lying down at some time. Want to double check the time. So closing your eyes gently, hands face up or face down on the thighs. Breathing. Just settling in. And we'll start. So just bringing your attention to the sounds around you in the room that you're in right now. Just noticing what you're hearing. Maybe noticing the sound of your breathing, the sound of a clock ticking, or your computer might be making some whirring noises. You may have on a fan. Maybe noticing the sounds as they enter your awareness that you hear outside. Cars passing on the road, the breeze blowing in the trees, maybe the birds settling for the night. And breathe. Then I'd like you to bring your awareness, your attention down to the bottom of your feet. And I want you to just feel the weightedness of your feet against the floor, just sort of settling into the feet. And then I want you to bring your awareness to your buttock area, to your thighs and buttocks, and notice the weightedness of your body seated in the chair or lying on the floor, the weight of your buttock area. And then bring your awareness to your shoulders and your shoulder blades, and maybe feeling a little bit of awareness of the weightedness of our shoulders. And then last is bringing your awareness to your head. And some of you may be able to sense the weightedness of your head resting on your neck. And breathe. So starting with your face, I'm going to ask everybody who is listening to this to scrunch up your face very tightly. Tighten your eyes, purse your lips, really tense those muscles tightly in the face, but don't forget to breathe. Breathe through the tension and then release. Releasing all tension that you held on to in that face. And then bringing your awareness to your mouth. And I'd like you to really tense the muscles just in that mouth area. Maybe purse the lips, press your tongue tightly into the roof of the mouth. Really push with that tongue. Create that tension. Might look like we're angry if somebody were to see our lips. Really tight, tight mouth. And then releasing the tension in your lips and your tongue. Just release that tension and breathe. And then I want us to do the same thing with just our eyes. I want to isolate just the eyes. So tense just your eyes right now. Tense those muscles around the eyes. Maybe you'll notice you'll feel a little bit of moisture or dryness as you tense them. And then releasing that tension in the eyes. And breathe. Remember to breathe through all of the tension we're creating in our body. This is a gentle reminder that we can create this tension and breathe through it at the same time. And now bringing your awareness to your shoulders. And since many of us are probably seated, it's a little easier to do when you're seated as opposed to lying down. I want you to squeeze your, almost as though you could touch your elbows together. So when you're trying to squeeze your elbows behind your back, you'll notice that there's a residual tightening in your shoulder area. So just tense that part of the body. You may notice the chest puffs out a little bit. So just tense that, squeeze your arms in tightly to your side, breathe, really important to breathe, and then releasing. Oh, and maybe even taking, a noticeable deep breath or two as you do that, really melting into that release. Just release. And now we're going to move the shoulders in the opposite direction. We're going to create tension in the upper chest area. So we're going to, instead of moving towards our back with our elbows, we're going to move our elbows forward as though we could touch our elbows together, and we'll create some tension in our chest area. Just feeling that sense of tension by pulling our arms together in front of us, and breathe and releasing. Releasing that tension in our upper chest and arms. Hard not to engage the arms. We can't necessarily isolate each individual area, but just noticing what it feels like to release that tension. Just let it go. Let it just dissipate and melt away. Then we're going to bring our attention to our hands, and we are going to tighten those fists. We're going to really ball them up tight. If you have long fingernails, be careful. I don't want you gouging out your the palms of your hand. So, do the best you can with tensing, creating tension in your hands. If it helps to even interlock your hands, take your hands and interlock one with the other, and just feel that tension that you create in both of those hands. Breathe. Really, really important to breathe while you create that tension. And then releasing that tension in the hands. Let the hands come back down to the lap or the arms of the chair or the floor if you're lying down, and breathe. Just breathe into that letting go. And this time we're going to create tension in our arms, our entire arms, from our hands all the way up to our shoulders. So we're going to try to pretend we're pushing our elbows together in front of us. We're going to clasp our hands together. We're going to tense our upper arms and our forearms and our elbows and our hands. And we are just going to squeeze. Very similar to the sensation when we were tightening our chest. And breathe. And releasing. Releasing that tension in the arms. Breathe in and out. Breathe into that area that you're letting go of that tension. And then bringing our awareness to our abdominal area and trying to create some tension there. And the way I usually do that is I kind of lift my feet off the floor and I pull in my stomach muscles as tightly as I can. But remember to breathe. So you don't want to forget that you're breathing at the same time you're creating this tension in that abdominal area. So hold that tension. Don't hold your breath. And releasing. You may notice that your thighs got a bit engaged, your buttock area got engaged, the sphincter muscle got engaged. There's a whole lot that went into creating that tension in that particular part of the body. And because we tend to create a lot of tension and hold on to a lot of tension there, I want to do that area again. So I want us to tense that abdominal area again, tightening those buttock muscles, squeezing the thighs, really pushing in on that abdominal area. I mean, not pushing in literally with your hands, but feeling that sense of pulling in and up, so that you're holding in those muscles really tightly, and breathe, and then releasing that again. I find that areas that tend to hold a lot of tension are our shoulders, our hands, our abdominal area, and our feet. And I like to do those areas more than once, which is why I spend a little more time on the face and the shoulders, and then the abdomen, as we just did. So now we're going to bring some tension into our thighs. And the motion is very similar to what we did when we tensed our abdomen, is maybe picking your feet up off the floor, tensing your sphincter muscles, tightening your buttocks, maybe pressing your thighs together, literally pressing them together. Again, a little easier to do if you're seated in a chair, because you can really feel the tension in those thighs. And I want you to breathe and then release. Let those feet drop, let the hands drop if you were curling those up. And breathe. Some of you may be very aware of other parts of the body that get engaged when you're tightening. Not unusual, because again, it's very difficult to isolate a particular area. There's often many other muscles that are engaged when we're doing this tightening and loosening of the muscle area, tightening and releasing. So it's really interesting to notice that when you release, there's a whole lot of muscles that are releasing at the same time. So now I want you to bring awareness to your entire legs, from your feet all the way through your lower legs, your knees, your thighs, and create tension however you can, maybe pulling your toes up toward your head and lifting the feet a little bit off the floor, pulling the thighs together, tensing maybe your sphincter muscle, tightening the buttock area, and really feeling that tension. I mean, I'm talking and breathing, and yet I am very aware of this incredible tension I'm creating in the lower half of my body. And then releasing that. And breathing and noticing what it feels like to let go of that tension. Sometimes we just need these little gentle reminders about letting go of tension, releasing tension, versus holding on to it. We hold on to it so often. So now, if you have the ability, I have slippers on my feet, and I'm not sure what everybody's wearing on their feet right now, but if you have the ability to take your shoes off, it does help. But if you can't, that's okay. Just try to tighten your toes, maybe curling your toes and creating tension in your feet. I don't want you to create a muscle cramp, though. Sometimes when you tense those toes, you'll feel a muscle cramp starting to come on. Release them right away. If that's the case, then all you have to do is take your feet and press them side by side, ankle to ankle bone to ankle bone, and just press the feet, the sides of the feet, into each other. And if you're on the floor, same thing, just press the feet together, side to side. But if you can tense the toes, I'd love you to do that. Just create that added tension and breathe. And then releasing that tension. If you have the ability to let those feet be unrestricted, and out of your slippers or shoes, and just feel them coming back to the floor or blanket or towel that you have under your feet, you'd be amazed how this really helps you feel that sense of letting go and releasing. So let's do that again. Create tension in your feet any way you can, lifting them off the floor, tightening the ankles, curling the toes, being mindful if you're creating too much tension and you're getting a muscle cramp, release the toes, and just sort of press the heels or the sides of the feet together. And breathe. And then when you release, I want you to press, not press down, but just get a sense of lightly pressing your feet onto the floor. Almost as though you could feel from your heel all the way up to your toes. And if you could do that right now, I'd like you to just wiggle your toes a little bit. Wiggle those toes and gently place them back down. And breathe. And feel that tension just sort of releasing and letting go. And now what I'd like you to do is create tension in your entire body. And you do this any way you want, from the crown of your head all the way down to the bottom of your feet. I want you to create tension everywhere that you possibly can, maybe curling your body up, pulling in your stomach muscles, breathing, tightening your toes, whatever works for you. No wrong way to do it. Just really squeeze, squeeze, squeeze everything you can. Breathe. And releasing. Releasing everything. And breathe. And we're going to do that one more time. So tensing everything that you can, from your eyes to your mouth, to your hands, to your chest, abdomen, legs, feet. Just squeeze. Tension. Breathe. Breathe, breathe, breathe. And releasing. Releasing all that pent up tension, all that pent up frustration or uncertainty or disharmony or dis-ease that we have in our lives. And breathe. And breathe. And just saying silently to yourself, I am releasing all tension in my body. I am releasing all tension being held in my body. I am releasing all tension I'm holding on to in my body. And then what I'd like you to do is imagine that there's sort of this invisible scanner that goes from the crown of your head all the way down to the bottom of your feet. And I want you to just slowly move through your body as you inhale and exhale, just releasing any other tension you're holding on to. And just saying that to yourself. I'm releasing all tension I'm holding on to in my body. Any place you notice tension, just repeat that. I'm releasing all tension I'm holding on to in my body. And I just want to be silent for a few moments while you do that. Just inhale and exhale. Inhaling through your nostrils. Exhale through your mouth. And one more time, inhale deeply through your nostrils. Hold. And then release that breath through your mouth. And knowing that you can do this at any time throughout the day that you need to just really let go of some tension. In particular, it's a wonderful meditation and exercise before you go to bed at night, or if you're having trouble falling back asleep. Wonderful exercise to do. And thank you. Have a great night.